Welcome to Walking Tour of Japan, a podcast dedicated to bringing you a new adventure somewhere in Japan with every episode. Each week, we'll travel to a different destination, from ancient temples and stunning gardens to fascinating cities, historic landmarks, and hidden gems tucked away across this incredible country. If you're gearing up for your own trip, head over to northstartravelers.com, where you'll find gear recommendations to help you travel smarter, plus a full list of our other podcast shows covering destinations around the world. If you love discovering new places and planning your next adventure, follow the podcast so you never miss an episode. And if you're enjoying the show, leaving a positive review goes a long way in helping others find it. Now, let's explore Japan. You're standing at one of the most recognizable spots in all of Tokyo. In front of you rises a massive wooden gate painted in deep crimson red, and hanging at its center, so large you have to tilt your head back to take it all in, is a lantern the size of a small car, blazing with color against the pale sky. This is the Kaminarimon, the Thunder Gate, the outer entrance to Senso-ji Temple, and the unofficial symbol of the entire city. Every year, more than 30 million people pass beneath this gate, making this the most visited religious site in the world. And yet, standing here right now, it's easy to feel something beyond the crowds. A weight to this place, a sense that something very old and very meaningful lives here. The story of Senso-ji begins not with architects or emperors, but with two brothers and their fishing nets on a quiet March morning in the year 628. The brothers were out on the Sumida River, the wide waterway that flows just east of where you're standing. When they hauled in their catch, they found no fish at all, only a tiny golden statue barely the length of a hand. They tossed it back, cast their nets again, and pulled it up once more. They threw it back a second time and a third. No matter how many times they returned the statue to the water, it kept coming back to them. Eventually, they brought it to shore, and when the village headman, a devout Buddhist, saw what they had, he recognized it immediately as a statue of Kannon, the bodhisattva of compassion and mercy. He converted his home into a small temple and devoted the rest of his life to caring for it. That home and the statue within it became the seed of what we now know as Senso-ji. Just a moment before you walk under the gate, take a good look at the two guardian figures flanking the entrance. On the left stands the god of wind, on the right, the god of thunder, fierce, muscular figures whose purpose is to ward off evil and protect everyone who enters. The enormous lantern between them, painted with the Japanese characters for Thundergate, weighs close to 700 kilograms. It has been remade several times over the centuries. The current gate itself only dates to 1960, rebuilt after the original was destroyed by fire in the 1800s. But the spirit of this entrance has remained constant for over 1,000 years, ever since a military commander named Taira no Kinmasa first erected a gate here in 941 to honor the temple and its growing reputation. Step through the gate now. You're on Nakamise Dori, the shopping street stretching ahead of you for roughly 250 meters, flanked on both sides by stalls and small shops with traditional wooden facades. This is one of the oldest shopping streets in Japan, its origins stretching back to the early 12th century when people who lived near the temple were granted permission to set up stalls along the approach. For centuries, merchants here sold incense, amulets, local sweets, and handmade crafts to the pilgrims streaming in from across the country. The street has burned, collapsed in earthquakes, and been rebuilt many times. The 1923 Great Kanto earthquake destroyed most of it. It was rebuilt in concrete by 1925. Then the firebombing raids of World War II leveled it again. What you see now is a post-war reconstruction, but the spirit, noisy, colorful, alive with commerce and devotion, has never really changed. As you walk, the air changes. There's the sweet smell of freshly baked ningyo-yaki drifting out from one of the stalls. Small cakes molded into the shapes of traditional Asakusa characters, filled with sweet bean paste. They're made fresh throughout the day and best eaten warm. You'll also pass stalls selling paper fans, yukata robes, wooden combs, Lucky Charms, and incense in every form. If you're looking for authentic souvenirs that aren't mass-produced, this is actually one of the better places to look. Many of the vendors on Nakamise have been operating for generations and stock goods made by traditional artisans. One practical note, if you come on a weekday morning before 10 o'clock, you'll have this entire street nearly to yourself. Later in the day, it becomes a slow-moving river of people, And while that has its own energy, the early morning calm is something else entirely. Halfway down on your left, you'll notice a gap in the row of shops, a quiet courtyard behind a low fence. This belongs to Denboin Temple, the residence of the temple's head priest, and it contains one of the most beautiful traditional gardens in Tokyo. It's almost always closed to the public, but once each spring, for a few weeks, the garden opens for an exhibition of artwork from the temple's collection. If your timing is right, it's not to be missed. The garden is exquisite, with a pond, stone bridges, and moss-covered paths that feel entirely removed from the city outside. You've reached the end of Nakamise now, and ahead of you rises the Hozomon, the inner gate of the temple. It's larger and more imposing than the Thunder Gate, a two-story structure housing a collection of the temple's most sacred Buddhist scriptures on its upper floor, which is why it's called the Treasure House Gate. 3 more great lanterns hang from its facade, red and gold. But what most visitors miss, and what you should look for, is the back face of this gate. Turn around after you pass through and look up. Hanging on either side are 2 enormous straw sandals, each measuring more than 4 meters tall and weighing as much as 500 kilograms. These giant waraji are symbols of Buddha's protective presence, the idea being that any evil spirit that sees them will assume a giant of unfathomable size stands guard and will turn back in fear. There's something wonderfully practical about that logic. Inside the gate now, the whole character of the space shifts. The 5-story pagoda stands to your left, its tiled roof line rising against the sky in a graceful taper. Each of its 5 levels corresponds to one of the 5 Buddhist elements: earth, water, fire, wind, and sky. The pagoda you see is actually a 1973 reconstruction, built after the original was destroyed in the 1945 air raids, but it follows the design of its predecessors faithfully and contains relics of the Buddha gifted by Sri Lanka during the post-war period. Standing at 53 meters, it's one of the tallest pagodas in Tokyo and one of the very few in the city. Take a moment to look at it properly because it's easy to rush past on the way to the main hall. The main hall, Hondo, or the Cannon Hall, stands directly ahead of you now. Before you climb the steps, stop at the large bronze incense burner in the forecourt. You'll see people gathered around it, waving the smoke toward themselves with both hands. The tradition is to fan the smoke toward whatever part of your body most needs healing. Your head for wisdom, your back for pain, your eyes for clarity. Lean in, catch the smoke, and let it settle on you for a moment. The smell of temple incense is one of those sensory anchors that will bring this place back to you years from now when you've long since returned home. The main hall was originally built sometime in the 7th century, designated a guardian temple by the shogun Tokugawa Ieyasu in the early 17th century, and then elevated to a grand complex during the long peace of the Edo period. During those centuries, Asakusa became the entertainment and cultural heart of what was then called Edo, the city we now call Tokyo, and the temple thrived at the center of all of it. Kabuki theaters, restaurants, pleasure gardens, and tea houses clustered around it. The streets you're walking were filled with pilgrims and merchants and poets. The great haiku master Matsuo Basho once wrote about the temple bell at nearby Bentendo Hall, wondering whether the sound drifting over the flowering trees came from Ueno or from here. This place and the life that has always pulsed around it has been inspiring people for a very long time. The hall was completely destroyed in the firebombing of March 10, 1945, one of the most devastating air raids in human history, which killed an estimated 80,000 to 100,000 people in a single night and reduced much of Tokyo to ash. The reconstruction of this hall between 1951 and 1958 became one of the most powerful symbols of Japan's post-war recovery. Donations came from all over the country, from ordinary people who understood what this temple meant. The building you see today, while modern in construction with reinforced concrete and a titanium-tiled roof, was designed to honor every detail of the original. And within it, housed in a small golden shrine at the center, is the original statue of Cannon, the same one, according to tradition, that the 2 brothers pulled from the river nearly 1,400 years ago. The statue has never been publicly displayed. It was sealed away in the 7th century following a revelation received in a dream by the priest who enshrined it, and it has never been seen since. Some scholars debate whether it still exists at all, but the faith it represents, the idea that something sacred and compassionate lives at the heart of this place, has drawn millions of people to this spot across 14 centuries without pause. Stand at the steps of the main hall and look up at the ceiling inside. You'll see richly painted panels depicting scenes from Buddhist cosmology, restored dragons and lotus flowers, works that took years to complete after the war. Then look down at the offering box, the large wooden enclosure at the foot of the altar. You'll see people tossing coins in, bowing, pressing their palms together. The traditional offering is a 5 yen coin because in Japanese, 5 yen is goen, which sounds like the word for a meaningful connection or encounter. People hope that by offering it, they invite good fortune, good relationships, or simply a bond with Kannon herself. If you'd like to draw an omikuji, a fortune, look for the metal cylinders arranged near the front of the hall. You shake one until a thin stick falls out through a small hole at the tip. The stick has a number, and you find the drawer with that number and take your fortune slip. This temple's fortunes come in 17 levels. And there's a notable quirk. Around 30% of them are considered unlucky. The tradition, if you draw a bad fortune, is to fold it neatly and tie it to one of the wire racks near the hall, leaving the bad luck behind at the temple rather than taking it home with you. There's something oddly liberating about that. If you draw a good one, you keep it. Before you leave the inner grounds, walk around the eastern side of the main hall, to the right as you face the altar, to find the Asakusa shrine. This is something genuinely unusual about this place and worth pausing for. In most of Japan, Buddhist temples and Shinto shrines are separate institutions with distinct histories and theologies. But here, a Shinto shrine sits directly adjacent to a Buddhist temple, sharing the same sacred ground. The shrine was built in 1649 by the shogun Tokugawa Iemitsu, and it's dedicated to the 3 men traditionally credited with founding the temple: the 2 fisherman brothers who found the statue and the village headman who recognized its significance and built the first hall. All 3 are venerated here as kami, as divine spirits. The shrine is called Sanja-sama, 3 Shrine, and the annual festival bearing its name, held each May, is one of the largest and most spectacular in Tokyo, with over 100 portable shrines carried through the streets of Asakusa by thousands of participants over 3 days. Take a few minutes to walk behind the main hall. Most visitors turn around after the Asakusa shrine and head back out through the Hozomon gate, but the paths that extend behind and around the complex open into a quieter world. There's a small traditional garden with a pond and stone lanterns. There's the Bentendo Hall, dedicated to Benzeiten, a goddess of arts, music, and good fortune, sitting on a small hill with its great bell, one of 6 historic time bells that once marked the hours of the day across Old Edo. And there are stone lanterns, statues, and smaller shrines tucked into corners that most people walk right past. If you want a photograph of the pagoda with no one in the frame, the back paths are often surprisingly empty even on busy days. The temple grounds are open 24 hours, but the main hall closes in the late afternoon, around 5 in the evening or 6:30 in winter. And here is one of the best-kept secrets of this entire neighborhood: come back after dark. Every evening from sunset until around 11 at night, the main hall, the gates, and the pagoda are illuminated with warm golden light. The crowds thin dramatically. The Nakamise shops are shuttered, but their metal shutters are painted with murals depicting scenes from Asakusa's Edo-era history, an art gallery running the length of the street, visible only at night. The whole complex takes on an atmosphere that's impossible to find during the day. Quiet, a little mystical, genuinely moving. As you walk back out through the Hozomon gate and down the last stretch of Nakamise toward the Thunder Gate, let yourself slow down. This place has been destroyed and rebuilt so many times, by fire, earthquake, and war, and each time the people who loved it brought it back, not because they were required to, but because the idea of this temple, the story of compassion and connection that lives at its heart, mattered enough to rebuild. The statue at the center of the main hall may or may not still exist. No one living has seen it, but what surrounds it, the gates, the incense smoke, the fortunes tied to the wire racks, the coins tossed into the offering box, the footsteps of 30 million people every year, all of that is unmistakably real. Now, before you leave Asakusa, here are a few things worth exploring in the immediate neighborhood. Just beyond the western perimeter of the temple grounds, a short walk through the back streets, you'll find Hanayashiki, Japan's oldest amusement park, open since 1853. It started as a botanical garden featuring peonies and chrysanthemums. evolved into a small zoo, and eventually became the retro carnival it is today. It's compact and cheerfully old-fashioned. The roller coaster has been running since 1953 and is the oldest operating coaster in Japan. It's not trying to compete with modern theme parks and doesn't pretend to. It's just a genuinely charming piece of living history, and well worth an hour if you have children in your group or simply enjoy things with a sense of humor about themselves. Entrance is inexpensive, and it sits just a few minutes' walk west of the main temple complex. For food, the streets immediately north of the temple, behind the main hall and east toward the Sumida River, tend to have calmer, more local energy than the tourist-facing stretch along Nakamise. If you're in the mood for tempura, Daikokuya Tempura is a short walk southwest of the temple grounds on Denboin Street. It's been serving its signature tendon, tempura over rice in a dark, savory sauce, since 1887, and the line outside is usually a reliable sign that it's worth waiting for. For sukiyaki, Asakusa Imahan is one of the most celebrated Wagyu beef restaurants in the city. Operating for over 120 years, it sits just a few minutes' walk from the temple and does both a refined dinner experience and a more accessible lunch service. A bit further toward the river, heading south toward the bridge, you'll pass Komakata Dozu, an extraordinary restaurant that has been serving its specialty of simmered dojo loach since 1801. Sitting on tatami at a low table while tiny eels cook tableside in a sweet broth is about as close as you can get in modern Tokyo to eating as an Edo period resident would have. And if you're looking for a drink with genuine history, Kamiya Bar, just a short walk from the Thunder Gate toward Asakusa Station, opened in 1880 and is recognized as the first Western-style bar in Japan. The building dates to 1921 and is a registered cultural property. Their house cocktail, the Denki Braun Porpi, a proprietary blend of brandy, gin, wine, and other ingredients that has never been publicly disclosed, has been poured here for over 100 years. The atmosphere is lively, unpretentious, and wonderfully stuck in a time that no longer exists anywhere else in the city. Finally, if you want to extend your afternoon, the Sumida Park is a 5-minute walk east from the temple, running along the riverbank with views of the Tokyo Skytree rising across the water. In spring, it's famous for cherry blossoms. On any clear day, it's simply a beautiful, unhurried place to decompress after hours of walking. Linger here as long as you like. You've just walked through nearly 1,400 years of Japanese history, through legend, disaster, devotion, and resilience. The city around you is relentlessly modern, but this corner of Asakusa holds something older and quieter, something that has endured because people have kept choosing to bring it back. That doesn't happen everywhere. Take a breath, look back at the Thunder Gate, and carry that with you. That brings us to the end of today's episode. Before you go, a few quick things. Subscribe so you never miss a destination, leave us a positive review to help others find the show, and share this episode with someone who loves exploring Japan. And if you're hungry for more adventures beyond Japan, visit northstartravelers.com to explore our other podcast shows and browse gear recommendations for wherever your next journey takes you. Your support means the world and keeps these adventures coming. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on the next walk.